Hey, I'm Megan Piffner, and welcome to Mornings with Megan. Grab your coffee and let's have a convo. Hello, my sweet Perry friend. I have a treat for you this week and next. I'm bringing back two of our most popular episodes ever. I'm taking a little downtime as we head into the end of summer. So before things kick back into gear this fall, I want to revisit an episode this week that so many of you told me really resonated. This one's called I Tried 5 Diets So You Don't Have to, and it still holds up. Paleo, keto, candida, vegetarian, bulking. I did it all, made every mistake in the book, and I'm sharing exactly what I learned so you don't have to go through it yourself. So settle in, and I'll see you here back in a couple of weeks with brand new content. Enjoy the rebroadcast. Good morning, and welcome back to Mornings with Megan. I'm Megan Piffner, a certified nutrition specialist and creator of the Perimenopause Matrix, and I am so glad that you're here. Today, we're going to talk about rucking. And before you change the episode because you think this is a military fitness bro topic, stay with me. Here's what I want you to know before we even get into it. You have probably been rucking your entire adult life. You just didn't have a fancy name for it. Can I tell you something that I think about a lot? When I lived in Queens, I used to see this woman regularly at the subway station. She was just under 5 feet tall, and every single day, she would climb up 2 full flights of stairs to the platform carrying, and I'm not exaggerating, a baby on her front in a carrier, a toddler on her back, a stroller folded under one arm, a bag on her hip, and an older child's hand in her other hand. I would watch her and think that is one of the most physically impressive things I have ever witnessed in this city. And I think about women like her a lot when I hear people say they don't have time to exercise or they can't afford a gym membership. Because women have always been movers. We are schleppers, we are haulers, we are foragers and carriers. Think about women in rural communities around the world who carry heavy jugs of water on their heads for miles just to bring their families clean drinking water while holding children or baskets of goods. Think about the women at the farmer's market, the mom at the school pickup with 4 bags on each arm, the woman on the train holding her groceries and her coffee and her kid. This is an ancient evolutionary biology doing exactly what it was designed to do. Michael Easter touches on this in his book, The Comfort Crisis, and he writes about it on his Substack, that our history as load carriers is literally woven into our physiology. Carrying is part of how we became who we are as a species. We did not evolve sitting still. We evolved moving under load. And there's a military fitness world that has just caught up and given it a name. They call it rucking. Here's what I want you to sit with for a second. Somewhere along the way, the fitness industry convinced us that real exercise looks a certain way. It happens at the gym. It requires specific equipment. It has a name and a class and a leaderboard. It probably involves very cute outfits. And if what you're doing doesn't look like that, it doesn't count. That's a lie. And the science, the real science from Harvard backs me up on this. So in 2007, researcher Aaliyah Crum and Harvard psychologist Ellen Langer published a study about hotel maids. These women spent their entire working days doing genuinely hard physical work, lifting, pushing, pulling, hauling heavy equipment up and down corridors, scrubbing and moving and bending and carrying. It was not easy work, but most of them believed that they were not getting enough exercise. Most of them thought of themselves as essentially sedentary because it didn't look like exercise. It didn't happen at a gym. It was just work. The researchers divided the 84 maids into 2 groups. One group was told the truth, that the work that they were already doing counted as real exercise, that it met the Surgeon General's recommendations for an active lifestyle. They were also shown specifics. 15 minutes of scrubbing burns 60 calories, 15 minutes of vacuuming burns 50 calories. This counts. You were already doing this. The other group of women was told nothing. 4 weeks later, without changing their actual behavior at all, same work, same hours, same everything, the group who knew their work counted showed measurable decreases in weight, blood pressure, body fat, waist to hip ratio, and BMI. Same work, different belief, then a different body. I want that to land for you because this is what I'm giving you today. Not a new program, not another thing to add to your schedule. I'm giving you the information that what you are already doing counts. And once you have this information, just like those maids, your body can fully receive the benefits of the work that you're already doing. Now let's talk about why this particular type of movement, load-bearing, weight-carrying movement, matters so specifically for women in perimenopause. Because this is not just general fitness advice. This is targeted, precise, and frankly urgent for where your body is right now. When estrogen begins to decline in perimenopause, several things happen to your musculoskeletal system that most women are never told about. First, muscle. Estrogen has a protective effect on muscle mass. It supports muscle protein synthesis, your body's ability to build and maintain muscle. So as estrogen declines, you become more susceptible to muscle loss. And I want to be clear, this is on top of the natural age-related muscle loss of 3 to 8% per decade that starts in your 30s. Perimenopause puts that loss into higher gear. Testosterone, which women have and need, also declines in this window, and testosterone is the other major driver of muscle maintenance. We are losing both protective hormones simultaneously. This is why women in perimenopause often feel like their body composition is shifting even when nothing has changed about their diet or exercise. It's not your imagination, it's your hormone environment. And here is where load-bearing movement becomes not optional, but essential. The primary signal your body uses to keep muscle is mechanical load. Your muscles need to feel resistance to get the message. Stay. We need you. Don't break down. Without that signal, without weight, without resistance, the body has no reason to maintain it because it is an expensive material for your body to maintain. Walking without load is wonderful. It's cardiovascular, it supports mood and metabolic health. Do not stop walking. But it does not send the keep this muscle signal the way that weighted movement does. Rucking does. Second, bone. Estrogen also regulates bone remodeling. As estrogen drops, bone breakdown accelerates and bone building slows. The result over time is that bone density loss, and the hip and lower extremities are particularly vulnerable. The research on weighted walking in postmenopausal women is instructive here. Women who did weighted walking maintained bone density at the hip and lower extremities, while women doing the same walking without load showed bone loss over time. Rucking kept their bones where they were. I want to be very precise here. We are talking about maintaining, not improving bone density. For significant bone building, we still need heavy weight resistance, deadlifts, squats, loaded movements at the spine and hip. Rucking is not a replacement for that. It is a powerful, accessible complement. Think of rucking as an everyday bone protection and resistance training as your bone investment. You want both. Third, insulin sensitivity. Estrogen also supports how your cells respond to insulin. As it declines, insulin resistance can creep in, even in women who have never had blood sugar issues. Load-bearing movement and the muscle mass that comes from it is one of the most powerful tools for maintaining insulin sensitivity. Muscle is metabolically active tissue. It pulls glucose out of your bloodstream. More muscle means better blood sugar regulation. This is why the move pillar and the fuel pillar of the perimenopause matrix are not separate. They are constant conversation. What you do with your body directly shapes how your body handles food. So when I say rucking is almost custom built for perimenopause, I mean it literally. It addresses muscle, bone, and metabolic health simultaneously in a low cortisol, low impact, highly accessible format. Show me a medication that does all three. So let's get into the specifics of what rucking actually does for your body. Rucking is simply walking or moving with added external load, weight on your body. The word comes from rucksack, the military term for a backpack. For decades, it's been the backbone of military training, used to build endurance, cardiovascular fitness, and strength simultaneously. But the research on it extends beyond military context, and for our purposes, the relevant data comes from weighted vests and load-carrying walking studies in women, including postmenopausal cohorts. The terminology in the studies varies. Load carriage, weighted vest walking, backpack walking, but the mechanics are identical to what the fitness world is now calling rucking. Cardiovascular fitness. Adding load to your walk increases your heart rate, oxygen uptake, stroke volume, and overall cardiovascular demand in a dose response way. More load, more incline, more speed. All of it amplifies the effect. And critically, this happens at the low impact mechanics of walking. No pounding, no joint stress, no cortisol spike. You get cardiovascular training in the aerobic base zone, what exercise scientists call zone 2, which is the foundation for long-term metabolic and cardiovascular health. This feeds your move pillar directly. Calorie burn. Even modest added load measurably increases your metabolic rate compared to the same unloaded walk. The relationship is roughly linear. Each additional pound carried increases your energy expenditure. You do not need a heavy vest for this effect. 10 pounds is enough to see a meaningful difference. 20 pounds increases it significantly. The effect scales with load, speed, and incline, and you can manipulate any of these variables to progress over time. Cortisol. And this is one of the most important ones for us. Most cardio formats that build real fitness also spike cortisol significantly. Running, HIIT, intense cycling, All of them are meaningful cortisol stressors. In perimenopause, when our regulate pillar is under pressure, when our stress response systems are already taxed, adding high cortisol exercise to the stack can backfire. It disrupts sleep. It worsens anxiety. It can drive fat storage around the midsection. It is the wrong tool for a nervous system that is already working overtime. Rucking is different. It's a cardiovascular exercise that does not spike cortisol in the way that high intensity work does. And time outdoors, which is where most people ruck, independently reduces cortisol through what environmental physiology researchers call restorative attention. The data on this is solid. Green space, natural light, fresh air. These things measurably lower stress hormones. So you get the cardiovascular and metabolic benefits while actively reducing stress load. That combination is rare. It is exactly what our perimenopause bodies need, and it puts your regulate pillar in active recovery mode instead of a deficit. Now about the female advantage, because it's real and I want you to own it. Research on women doing loaded exercise events shows something interesting. Women often rate the same relative load as more strenuous than men, higher perceived exertion. You might think that's a disadvantage. It's not, because despite rating it as harder, women in these studies recovered like strength faster on retesting and tolerated the sustained load well. This is consistent with what exercise scientists have documented broadly. Women have better endurance and fatigue resistance than men relative to body size. This is why I could carry a week's worth of groceries on the subway for 40 minutes, and my ex-husband, who is significantly stronger than me by almost any measure, couldn't sustain it. Not for that long. He had raw strength. He didn't have the endurance for sustained load carrying. I did. And that is not a coincidence. It's biology. Our hips are mechanically wider than men's, which means that our bodies can distribute load differently and often more efficiently over long distances. We are anatomically adapted for exactly what rucking requires. Military invented the language, women invented the practice. Pause. I want to ask you something. Do you have a friend in your life who's walking for exercise and feeling like it's not enough? Who thinks she needs to join a gym or take classes to get real results? Please share this episode with her right now. You can send it while you're listening. Just forward it and say, this one's for you, because what she's already doing might be working. She just needs to know it counts. Before we get to the practical, I want to spend 1 minute on what rucking is not, because I know how the wellness world works, and I don't want anyone taking this the wrong direction. Rucking is not a replacement for heavy resistance training. If you are in perimenopause and you are not lifting weights, genuinely heavy weights with progressive overload, that needs to be on your radar. Rucking supports your bone and muscle maintenance. Heavier resistance training builds them. We need both. Rucking fills your movement throughout the weak gaps. Lifting fills the adaptation and building gaps. I'll do a dedicated episode on resistance training for perimenopause because it deserves its own conversation. For now, just know that rucking is an addition to your toolkit, not a swap. Rucking is also not an excuse to go harder. I work with women who are chronically under-recovered, poor sleep, high stress, racing nervous system. The instinct is often to push harder for exercise as a form of control. Rucking is not that. It's a walk with weight. The pace is conversational. You should be able to hold a full sentence without gasping. If you're going hard enough that you can't speak, you've left working territory and entered something that is going to cost your regulate pillar. Slow down. Add weight before you add intensity. And rucking is not only for people who are already fit. This is one of the most accessible entry points into load-bearing exercise that exists. If you have been sedentary, if you're returning from an injury, if the idea of a gym is overwhelming, a walk with 5 pounds in a backpack is exactly where to start. Start there. It counts. So here's exactly how to do this. And I mean this week, not someday. Step 1, find a backpack. Not a special one, your regular backpack, your kid's old school backpack, whatever you have. If it has a shoulder strap and you can use it, it works. Step 2, add weights, books, cans of food, full water bottles, bag of rice. Put something heavy in the bag. Start with what you estimate is roughly 5 to 10% of your body weight. So if you weigh 150 pounds, that's about 8 to 15 pounds. If this sounds like a lot, start with 5. Your body will tell you what's right. Step 3, go for your normal walk. Same routine, same time. The only difference is the weight on your back. That's it. You're rucking. A note on load placement. Pack the weight high in the bag, close to your back, not hanging down at the bottom. Weight that sits low and away from your body increases strain on your lower back. Weight that sits high and tight stays close to your center of gravity and reduces the strain. If you ever invest in a dedicated pack, look for one with a hip belt. For women specifically, a hip belt shifts some of the load onto your hips rather than your shoulders, which is both more comfortable and more anatomically appropriate for our frame. A chest strap that keeps the pack from swinging also helps with gait. If you have little ones that can be worn, wear them. If your child is still small enough for a front or a back carrier, put them in the carrier for part of the walk instead of a stroller. You get the load-bearing benefit. They get the contact time. That is the most efficient 2-for-1 than a parenting and fitness. How to progress. Give yourself 2 or 3 weeks at starting weight before you add more. Your tendons and ligaments need more time to adapt than your muscle to do so. So even if you feel like you can go heavier immediately, be patient. When you're ready to increase, add load before you add distance or speed. Once load and distance both feel manageable, you could start adding incline. Those are a significant amplifier. Your week 1 target. 3 walks this week with a weighted pack. They don't need to be long. 20 or 30 minutes is plenty to start. Just go. This is your move pillar activation for this week. Let me bring us home through the perimenopause matrix because I want you to see how many pillars this one practice touches. Move. This is the core application. Load-bearing movement is the most important category of movement at our stage of life. Fuel. Muscle mass drives insulin sensitivity. Rucking supports muscle, which supports your blood sugar, which supports your energy, your cravings, and your metabolic health. Recharge. Improved cardiovascular fitness and reduced cortisol directly feed sleep quality. Lower stress hormone load in the evening means your body can actually downshift and rest. Regulate. The low cortisol nature of rucking combined with outdoor exposure puts your nervous system in recovery mode instead of deficit. This is active regulate pillar support. Connect. Walk with someone. Rucking is a social activity if you want it to be. Some of the best conversations happen on a walk. Clean. Movement supports lymphatic circulation in the body's natural processes for clearing metabolic waste. Your lymphatic system doesn't have a pump. Movement is its pump. 1 practice, 6 pillars. This is why rucking belongs in the perimenopause toolkit. Here is your morning takeaway. You have been rucking your entire life and giving yourself 0 credit for it. The groceries you carry, the kids you haul, the stairs that you climb with a full bag. Your body has been receiving real measurable benefits from that load-bearing movement. Now you know. And now that you know, you can be intentional. Take it 1 step further this week. Add intentional load to 1 walk. Put 10 pounds in a backpack. Carry your groceries home instead of rolling them. Wear your baby on the next walk instead of a stroller. And know that what you are doing is good for your muscles, good for your bones, good for your heart, good for your blood sugar, and good for your nervous system in perimenopause. Specifically, that's not general wellness advice. That's targeted support for exactly where your body is right now. You are not starting from 0. You never were. If you want to understand how your movement is intersecting with your hormones, your metabolism, and everything else happening in your body right now, that is exactly what the Perimenopause Matrix Lab Review is designed for. It's a 30-minute deep dive where we look at your actual labs through all 6 pillars of the matrix, and I tell you specifically what is going on and what to do about it. It's $99, and you can find it at meganpiffnernutrition.com. The link is in the show notes. See you next Wednesday morning. Can you do me a favor? If this episode gave you something to think about, share it with one woman in your life who needs a different story about perimenopause. Our bodies didn't come with a user manual, and this perimenopause thing can feel confusing and lonely. But you are not alone. You are not crazy, and you are definitely not broken. And maybe someone in your life needs that reminder today. Let's spread the word and be kind to each other and ourselves. Now the legal bit. I'm a nutritionist, but I'm not your nutritionist. This podcast is for information and education only. No client relationship is formed. Always seek medical advice when necessary. I'll see you next Wednesday morning.